All right, good morning, beautiful people. It's another exciting edition of Center Stage in Malaysian at 1.1 FM Owerri. I'm Rosemary Mwabasi, babe, and of course, it's always a pleasure to have you on each episode of Center Stage. Today, we are taking our journey into something that existed long before books, television, social media, and the internet: oral tradition. Across Africa, knowledge has traditionally been passed from one generation to another through folktales, proverbs, songs, legend, myths, riddles, praise poetry, and storytelling. However, we are not simply telling stories to entertain children, though through these stories they taught values, explained the world around them, preserved histories, and passed wisdom from one generation to another. But today, we face an important question: who is recording these stories before our people carry them on? Because when an elderly storyteller dies without passing on what they know, we may lose more than a story. We could lose a piece of our history, language, identity, and collective memory. And today I'm particularly delighted to have with me someone I know very well. He was one of my lecturers during my time at Avanikoku then Federal College of Education, but now Federal University of Education, Owerri. And I can confidently say that he's one of those lecturers whose classes you will look forward to. He has a remarkable way of, making knowledge and making it understandable, engaging, and memorable. So I'm especially pleased to have him here to help us unpack this important conversation. He's no other person but Dr. Emmanuel Inedu from the Department of English, Abanikoko, Federal College of Education, Owerri. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Good morning, listeners.
Truly a pleasure to have you.
A pleasure too.
All right. So to begin with, we will start with the basics. Let's just go straight to the basics, right? So what exactly, when we talk about oral tradition, what exactly are we talking about? Can you?
Yeah, oral tradition is the basis of African knowledge. It is the basis of our being as Africans. Before Western civilization, before education came to Africa, Africans had held very, very strongly to oral tradition. It is our way of life. It is the way our people documented their lives, the way our people documented their history, their culture, their religion, the way our people documented their lived and felt experiences. In fact, I dare say, oral tradition is the nexus of the African society.
Okay, for someone listening who thinks that a folk tale is simply a story that is told to entertain children, like lullaby, what deeper purpose do these stories serve?
Oh, basically, if you mean stories, stories are very, very important. If you talk about stories, they are they serve as the moral life wire of every society, particularly in Africa. Before Christianity or before Islam came, our mores, our lives, our lived experiences, our worldview were transmuted through stories. Now, these stories usually have very deep moral lessons that they convey. Stories in African tradition were not just told for the sake of storytelling. Stories were told to correct ills in society, to pass down expected codes of behavior in society. Stories were used to correct certain anomalies and wrong things that happened in society. Now, stories served as a moral barometer of the society. Now, each ideal African story must have a moral lesson or moral lessons. African stories are not just told for the sake of telling stories. African stories are didactic in nature. Didactic will mean they must teach a moral lesson or moral lessons. They must perform social functions in society. The society is bedeviled with so many crises, so many troubles, so many upheavals. As such, it is stories that are told to particularly younger children that seem to correct these ills. Now, stories are like religion.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the church, when you go to the mosque, or whichever religion you believe in, stories they tend to regulate society. They tend to make society better. Now, stories are told to impact moral gauge and standard to the society. You see, because without these stories in traditional African society, where now the world has evolved, people no longer listen to stories. Stories seem to have gone extinct now. When you start telling any children stories, they will look at you and say, what the hell is this one talking about? Because children nowadays are glued to TV, they are glued to Cartoon Network, they are glued to Nickelodeon, they are glued to so many things. In fact, kids as young as 7 have mobile phones, have tablets, so they don't have time for stories. Back in the days, there used to be stories told on the national television, they were known as Tales by Moonlight.
Yeah.
Tales by Moonlight was a delight for children. Not just children looked forward to Sunday evenings when these tales were told on national television. Then we didn't have the DSTV as it is now. So children particularly looked forward to Tales by Moonlight because it was a time for reawakening. It was a time for moral instructions. So stories are very, very important as they serve as a moral barometer to every society, particularly in Africa, where we have strong regard for tales told by our elderly ones. Not everybody can tell stories. Agreed. Everybody can tell stories, but not everybody can tell impactful stories. It is the elders who sit in the traditional moonlight setting that tell tales. They gather children, because elders are believed to be sages.
Yeah.
Elders are believed to be wise. They are knowledgeable. So they have seen the world from different perspectives. So they gather children and tell stories to correct ills and to make society better.
Yeah, I'm talking about the fact that most of our younger ones no longer want to, they don't have that, say, attention span to listen to what you want to tell them, because, they can get it anyway. We'll get to that point. Let me not jump. Let's take it process. Like traditional, oral tradition, right?
Yeah.
Can we say that is a form or a way of preserving knowledge? Can we use it to preserve knowledge, things we know?
Sure. Oral tradition, before advancement and development, oral tradition was not documented in cassettes, in CDs, in computers and all digital platforms. Oral tradition was transmuted by word of mouth from one generation to the other. Oral tradition, as it were, was like a baton that is passed during a relay race. In a relay race, somebody runs, passes the baton to the next person, and the person continues and on. If it's a 2,000 dash, if it's a 1,500. So oral tradition is a historical artifact that is owned collectively by the people, and one generation passes a large chunk of knowledge to the next generation. Now, the beauty about oral tradition, traditionally Africans were not educated in the Western way. So our traditions were documented verbally. Verbally, it was the historical antecedents of the people, the oral wealth of the people, the rich reservoir of knowledge, tradition, history, religion, and all whatnot. And it was transmitted by word of mouth from one generation to the other. Although it was not documented, it never got lost, because every generation made sure it handled it diligently, kept it, gathered it jealously, and handed it diligently to the next generation. As one generation was facing out, it literally handed it over to the next generation, and like that, so for hundreds of years. Even before the coming of the Europeans, we've had our oral traditions, which we held very dear and sacrosanct.
All right, thank you so much. That was quite insightful. We'll take a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go nowhere. You're listening to Center Stage on All Malaysia 91.1 FM. If you're just joining us, stay with us. Okay, it's usually a caller participation, so I get to open the phone line at a time, and then the conversation still continues. Is the camera well placed?
I'm seeing myself.
That's why I asked you.
I'm seeing myself.
But it's well placed.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
If I told you how I came this far and all the things that I've been through, need I tell you that I mean to have. I've seen it all and done it all. Growing up as a here we stand as a people with one song, with one voice.
Okay, so you guys record?
Yeah.
You record the...
This is just my personal.
Okay, your personal, okay.
You're supposed to stream, but
Okay.
don't wait for it. It's a special edition. This is our flagship program.
Okay.
So we usually have a special edition every month, every last Friday of every month. So that's the one we'll get to, because we hold it every day.
Okay. How long has this Omalicha been? Like 3 years?
2023. Yeah, so 3 years now. Yeah.
Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom reigns and truth prevails.
Please note that the opinions expressed by callers on this program or broadcast does not in any way reflect the view of Omalicha 91.1 FM.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Center Stage on Omalicha 91.1 FM Owerri, and we've been talking about African oral tradition. I know our listeners are itching to join the conversation, but of course, I'm going to first of all officially open the phone line. But before that, we have with us in the studio Dr. Emmanuel Inedu from the English Department, Abanikoku University of Education, throwing more expert insight on the topic of discussion. Well, the phone line to call to join the conversation is 0911 598 3411 or 070 49774656. Let's have our first caller for today. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning. Okay, I think we lost that call. You can do well to call us back. The number to call is 0911 598 3411 or 070 4977 4656. That's the number to call to join in the conversation. What is one folklore, proverb, song, riddle, or story that you remember from your parents or grandparents? Perhaps you want to share with us. And perhaps there's a story that was told to you repeatedly as a child and you have never forgotten. Call us now to share that with us or contribute to the topic of discussion. All right. So, Mr. Inedu, sir. There was a time when families gathered in the evenings, just like you mentioned, and children listening to parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you should take this call before we go ahead. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from? Sorry, we lost that call too. I apologize for that. Do well to call us back. And try to make sure your location it has a strong network where you'll be calling us from, because we do not want to lose your calls. We really want to hear your perspective on the discussion today. The number to call is 07049774656 or 0911-598-3411. That's the number to call. So some of these stories, like I was saying, we are explaining where a community came from. They explain where a community came from. Others taught children about honesty, courage, respect, hard work, and the consequences of certain bad behavior. Right.
Exactly.
So, how important we are elders in preserving this knowledge, and what happens when an elderly person who is a custodian of these stories, passes on without,
handing over
transmitting these stories.
Yeah, it's a very, very serious issue. Mm-hmm. It is often said that when a professor dies, it is like a whole library has been burnt. Mm-hmm. In like manner, when an adult, and not an adult, when an elderly person dies in Africa, it is considered, without doing the needful, without being serving as a guardian and transmitting the oral tradition of a people, it is considered that the whole generation is lost. Because, okay.
Okay, let's pick this call. Sorry to cut you short. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. The belief for oral tradition cannot be revived. What of it is not the normal issue we know. So from time to time we hear that it has been removed from secondary school curriculum. It's not unfortunate. What you think, let people choose whether to be a historian, to be anything they want to be. But in this country, they want to pursue. They want to go and learn a trade, go and learn hand the work. There's no job, go and learn. Why should they force you? With the former American chairman, Amudo Yaku, as he's a professor of history and international relations. Let people study whether I go language, everything they are valid. But they want to control even those in political power. What can they go so? We don't know where they don't know their specialization. Nowadays, social media has one very big about it. But let it be secondary and university, let it be taught at the highest level. It's necessary. But Nigerian leaders, politically, I don't know whether they train professors and those in higher authority of education to remove history from time to time. Without this, somebody like me wouldn't know that they are in Boko Haram, something like that, and the Usman that showed the strategy in the 19th century. Huh?
Yes, we can hear you.
The tourists they talk about in Mali, the tourists of Mali, they have been belligerent, they have been warlike for a long time. And the Jukwes in Taraba, who have always engaged in war with the people in Benue. So our leaders have said, hopefully, unfortunately, let this because you know this oral tradition cannot be sustained. Let the making record be sustained and be promoted. Thank you very much. This is my formal statement.
All right, thank you so much, Jalet, for your contribution. I mean, was he saying the African traditional folklore has been scrapped? Is that
okay. He's making a valid point. Although this may not be the fault of leaders. If he's talking about scrapping of history, yes, he's right in that direction. Yeah, we hear that history has been scrapped off the curriculum of secondary schools. Back in the days, our parents studied history in primary school.
Exactly.
I also studied history in secondary school, but we hear that history has been taken off the curriculum. That is a very, very grave error. But if you're talking about oral literature, it is not the government's responsibility to come and teach and inculcate or the oral tradition of the people. It is, we are all guilty and culpable of letting our oral tradition to fizzle away. We are guilty, we are culpable, because we have become woke. We have become a woke generation, as the Gen Zs will refer to it. We have become a generation that sees anything tradition as archaic, anything tradition as bad.
But don't you think the government, in a way, has a role to play in
Sure, the government has a role to play by bringing back history from wherever they threw it to. History has to be brought back and brought back into the curriculum. In that regard, the government has to do that, and it is a decisive action that must be taken by any responsible government. History must be brought back, because without history, we're a lost generation.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Let's have our next caller. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Sorry. Did you lose that call? Hello, good morning. What's going on? Hello.
Network is bad.
Hello, good morning. Hello. All right, sorry about that. We have not been able to take that particular call. You can still call us back. Do well to call us back. We want to really hear from you, because your perspective to the topic is very important. We really want to hear from you. The number to call to join the conversation is 0911-598-3411 or 070-4977-4656. So take some few more calls, then we'll go over to our next. I don't know if you have. Do you have any pending?
No. So like I was saying before, the call came in. In rounding up that line of thought, the oral tradition must be sustained by everybody. We are the ones that are responsible for rejuvenating our oral tradition, reawakening it. If they are dead, they seem to have gone moribund. We have to reawaken it and hand it over to our children so that they can carry on. But now we are at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads because oral tradition has fizzled out because we have it has been relegated to the background.
Which of these forms are more vulnerable to this disappearance you're talking about? Are there any ones that they are still
Particularly folktales.
Okay.
Folktales, riddles, myths, and legends. The only one that is still being sustained are proverbs.
Okay.
Because as Africans we can't do without proverbs. While we speak, proverbs inadvertently or advertently occur and are used. Aside that, most forms of oral traditions have been lost. Take, for example, a typical example is our masquerade system.
Okay.
Now, African traditional religion African culture, African tradition has been greatly damaged and bashed by the Abrahamic religions. Now, that's the truth. We are all Christians now, but many of our religious beliefs argue strongly or canvass strongly against masquerades. They see masquerades as barbaric. They see masquerades as evil. They see masquerades as antichrist. But I have a very fundamental worry with that. Now we tilt towards masquerade, but we'll allow our children to go during Christmas to go visit Santa Claus. We'll allow our children to sit on Santa Claus's legs. We'll allow our children to hug Santa Claus and snap with Santa Claus.
Okay.
But when it comes to anything that has to do with culture, tradition, masquerades, we discard it.
So do you think
and demonize it?
Okay, the comparison between Santa and the African masquerade, don't you think that the African masquerade has a form of what do I call it? Like a form of ritual involved in it? Right.
What do you mean? But we often miss.
Like we'll say Santa could just be anybody putting on any kind of putting up that Christmas, that Santa clothes. Anybody could wear it without any form of ritual. But then when it comes to the African masquerade, there are some certain rituals, and it's not anybody that can wear it. Do you think it's okay comparing those two, considering the rituals involved in this, and then none of such?
I've argued in multiple ways that Santa Claus is masquerade of the Europeans or the Westerners, while masquerade is our own Santa Claus.
Okay.
So let us be. Christianity should let us be. There's nothing wrong with our own masquerade system. It is our culture. And even in the Bible, Christ said that he did not come to abolish the law. He did not come to throw away our traditions. Of course, traditions that are antithetical to human good should be discarded. But there's nothing wrong at all with masquerade. How about we talking about Halloween? We everybody now tilt towards Halloween. But when it comes to our traditions, our African culture, our masquerades, we demonize it.
What do you think could be, factors contributing to this particular decline and tilting to, Western culture, the expense of our traditional
a whole lot. We have this clash between the African tradition and the Western tradition. The Afrocentric worldview and the Eurocentric worldview, whereby we ourselves consider everything that is African to be bad. Everything that is African to be negative, whereas everything that is Western is considered to be good. So it is this inferiority complex. We look at our tradition as bad. We look at our tradition as inferior. We look at our tradition as demonic. So we tilt towards the Eurocentric worldview. Anything that the West throws on us, we take it hook, line, and sinker without looking at its merits. African tradition cannot be negative. It cannot be anything bad. It is our tradition. Like I said, the ones that are bad, like the killing of twins, which has long been discarded, should be thrown away. But the ones that don't have any negative effect should be encouraged. When you go to countries like Brazil, people go for the but the festivals in Brazil, in South America, very big carnivals. But when it comes to our own society, we try to discard our traditional beliefs. The church says, "Don't go there. Hey, it's bad. It's evil. Flee from them." But we go to Santa Claus. We do Halloween. Oh, come on.
All right, thanks so much for that. So, today children have access to cartoons. Let's just move a little bit before we go with the Viet from what we are talking about today. Today, children have access to cartoons, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, name it, video games, right, and countless other forms of entertainment. Can traditional stories compete with today's digital entertainment? Can traditional stories compete with what's the variety that we have?
In oral literature, it is said that occasion determines performance. Now, because we have moved from a pre-literate society, our oral traditions are now being documented. They can now be documented and presented in digital platforms. Okay, so our oral traditions will no longer be told in traditional settings, as it were. Now there's documentation. They can be documented and digitalized for children to watch, for children to view. Not just watching foreign throwing junks on us. Some of the things our kids watch on cartoon stations and cartoon channels are, in fact, they're even demonic. I dare say. Some of them are horror and they are negative.
Okay.
So ours can be improved upon, documented, and thrown into the internet space and digitalized for children to watch, for children to view, for children to have access to.
All right, this is the stage of Normally Tonight for FM. And our listeners, this is time for you to also call in to join in the conversation. We have a caller here. Let's hear what he has to say. Hello, good morning.
Good morning once again, Victor.
Good morning.
Yes, once again.
Okay.
Yes, briefly, I want to support you because Margaret is placed in, especially in Amaka area, some years ago, they generated, not only here, many places, they generated to a show of superiority among the groups. 3, 4, 5, juju, voodoo, and so many things. So that made it for the traditional ruler to ban it. It's not being displayed more than 10 years ago. If they had done it civilly, without confrontation, without show of supremacy, we could have persisted, continuity today. But then, they went the wrong way. Engaging native doctors to do all sorts of things for them. Please, as I said, we follow, using my test, and other native boys to thank one another. So that's why can't be compared to Father Christmas or Santa Claus. Thank you very much.
All right, before you go, Jalat, I'd like you to help us with just one traditional proverb that you know about. That just help us with one traditional. Can you do that? If you can, go ahead and tell us one. Give us one Igbo traditional proverb that you know before we go.
Okay. According to our own proverb here.
Okay. Will you do us the pleasure of translating it? Will you do us the pleasure of translating what this proverb really means?
As if you do something to somebody, something give you something, that person will react. Like when you say push somebody to the wall, that person will do what you don't expect.
Okay,
so like our Nigerian governments are doing to us now.
Okay.
They are leading us into temptation now. So to the wall. That's how many people are engaging in all sorts of criminality and social mishap.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Okay, so Abad, say it again, please.
You push an old woman the way she doesn't like. She wants to.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Now we get it. Thank you so much, Gerald, for your contribution.
Thank you.
All right, it's quite interesting to know that some people, could, when you pop them that way to go ahead and they can be able to, produce something.
Like when you talk about proverbs, proverbs are used spontaneously, and when you see, when you listen to lawyers speak, when you say this, the way lawyers speak, the way, in fact, the way politicians speak, flamboyant politicians, their speeches are colorful, their speeches are very, very impressive. That is the way traditional Africans speak. You speak interjecting it with proverbs. Okay, like Achebe famously said that proverbs are like palm oil with which words are eaten.
Yeah.
So our proverbs, they stand us out. They stand us out. These are the things that stand us out as Africans. Okay, in talking about the banning of masquerade, I think we in no way encourage criminality by some masquerade groups and all of that. But I insist that it is my considered opinion that nobody should do anything to masquerade. Some months ago, sometime last year, we heard on the news that the governor of Akwa Ibom State banned masquerade. That is a sacrilege, if you ask me. How on God's earth will you ban masquerade? If certain masquerade groups or certain masquerades commit any crimes against the state, the law should take its course. But banning of masquerades or any masquerade festivals or what of such nature is a sacrilege against the African traditional religion and must be discouraged.
All right, let's quickly go over to your last discussion. You talked about, putting out these African folklores and tales in the internet. But we have a problem with language. We have a language barrier. For instance, it's usually written in African languages, right? Now, if we want to give these things out to other audience to also benefit from it, and then that means we have to begin to translate, and then in translation, I think there is a lot of things will be lost. How can that be managed? How can that be best? How can we do that without losing the essence of this?
I get your point. Good question. Now that is the language challenge in Africa. That is somehow a problem of colonization that we can't help. We can't help it. But then, Chinua Achebe is considered to be an African literary icon. Achebe had advised in a 1963 lecture in the University of Makerere, Uganda, that Africans should let the colonial language work for them. That Africans should use the colonial language in a way that it suits their purpose. That means you can now, the colonial language, if, for example, English can be domesticated. Can be domesticated to bear the nuances, the flavor, the cultural tones and mood of African languages. Now that means you can speak English, but speak English that has the encumbrances of the African language. If you are speaking English, let your English reflect the Igbo-ness. Let your English reflect the Yoruba-ness. Let it reflect the Ijaw-ness. You can speak English and still reflect our native traditional languages. Like when Achebe in many of his novels, in writing about the Obi, which is like a sitting room or a parlor in the traditional Igbo setting, he would have said Okonkwo's visitors came to his sitting room, but he deliberately used African words. He did not let the African tradition get lost in the course of telling his story. Okay, he told his story with African inflections, African realities in mind. As such, the African tradition, the African language is not lost. Now, so you can tell our native stories in English, in French, but still bearing the traditional African elements in them without discarding them. By so doing, our language and our culture and what they are intended for will not be lost to the colonial language.
This is quite insightful. As always, I didn't expect less from you, so I must confess, right? So this brings us to the core question of today's program. Who is recording our stories? Who should take responsibility for preserving oral traditions? Is it the families, communities, schools, universities, governments, or cultural organizations? Whose major responsibility is it to record these stories?
Everybody. Everybody should, all hands must be on deck, as they say. It is everybody's responsibility to record and document our stories so that they will not be lost. The government is very busy. Should I say that? They are busy doing other things. So we must start from the basis. Our families can document stories. When we go home for festivals, for New Yam festivals, for age grade meetings and all of that. We can document them, fine tune them, and throw them into the internet space. The schools can also document. In universities, we have departments of history, we have department of literature, we have department of theater arts. They can document these oral traditions so that they don't get lost. Because if our oral traditions finally get out of circulation, we will be in deep trouble. Already we're in deep trouble. If you see the kind of crisis we have in society, it shows that this is a generation that has not have anything to do with their oral tradition. Imagine the kind of greed that is in the society now. Imagine the kind of quest for wealth that is in the society. You know, the stories that are the common stories that are told. I just give you a short one that everybody knows. The story of the tortoise and the birds while they were on earth, and sometime in a very long distant time ago, in the long distant past, there was extreme hunger and famine in the land. And there was no food, there was drought. And the birds and tortoise, who is a trickster hero, decided to borrow feathers from different birds, from the ostrich, from the owl, from the vulture. He borrowed and gathered them and said they should go and visit God in heaven. Because tortoise did not have wings to fly. He didn't have the capacity. He didn't have the capacity to fly. Tortoise borrowed wings and feathers from these birds. And they set out to go visit God in heaven. Before setting out, tortoise asked all the birds that they should choose new names, so to speak. And they all chose different names, not knowing that tortoise had different ideas. Tortoise chose a name, all of you. This is a story that everybody knows in different cultures and in different traditions across Africa. And tortoise chose the name, all of you. They flew to heaven to go and visit God. Like I always say, I believe when they came, God said, welcome my children, God will say, welcome my creations. And God, being a very generous and rich God, and who is omnipotent and omniscient, knew that there was extreme hunger on earth where they were coming from. And God, being a generous God, gave them abundance of food to eat. He said God said the food is for all of you. I believe God turned back to go and sit on his throne. And when he said that, tortoise said, you have heard what God said. That God said the food is for all of you. And my name is all of you. Tortoise sat down and ate, but I don't believe tortoise was able to finish all the food God provided. But because of tortoise's greed, he sat down and ate till he was full to his brim. The birds got angry, having come from a long distance from earth to heaven to visit God. They have been deprived of the food that has been provided under the arrangement of tortoise, being the food being for all of you. And the birds got angry, and they collected back their wings, their feathers. The ostrich, the dove, the owl, the vulture, they all collected back their wings and feathers. And whilst they were going back, they left tortoise stranded. And tortoise told them that, please, if you go home, tell my wife, Madam Tortoise, that she should put soft materials in our compound. She should put mocha phone, Vitaphone. She should put clothes, our old clothes in our compound. They said, okay. Whilst they set out and got back to earth, they told tortoise's wife that your husband said you should put rocks, bottles, irons, and all dangerous and sharp objects in your compound. And that was a generation where women did not challenge the authority of men. Tortoise's wife did exactly that without asking questions. I believe if it were today's world, Madam Tortoise would have asked why, what. She would have asked a lot of questions, but she was obedient, a diligent African wife. She, in African stories, anything happens. So Tortoise's wife was a wife to Tortoise, and Tortoise's wife did exactly as the birds had told her. She did that, and we're told that tortoise jumped from heaven, wherever it was, and landed in its compound and shattered its back into so many pieces. That is why today we are told the tortoise had so cracked back and so many pieces on its shell. That story is not just told for the fun of it. It is told for its moral and didactic lessons. One of the moral lessons is greed. Greed does not pay. You should not covet what is meant for the generality of the people for yourself. Okay, so if you look at the society today, if you look at the country, what is happening? One man cuts away monies meant for the provision of social amenities, for the provision of hospital equipment in the hospitals, drugs, oxygens, and cut all that away for themselves. It will shock you that I think it was last year that a journalist died because there was no anti-snake vaccine, anti-venom vaccine in the Federal Capital Territory. Monies were provided for that, but one man or a certain group of people chopped that money, cutted that money away. So that story teaches us that greed is bad, that it is not good to covet what is meant for the generality of the people just for oneself. So our African traditional stories, oral traditions, have a way of censoring society, of regulating society, and making society better. Because society, like I said earlier, is bedeviled with a lot of problems. And if our oral traditions, which serves as a moral barometer, is not used, our society will be in serious crisis.
Thank you so much. Quite insightful. If you're just joining us, this is Center Stage in Malaysia 91.1 FM Owerri, and we've been talking about our African traditional folklores, and with me here in the studio is Dr. Emmanuel Inedu from the English Department of Avadiko Federal College of Education. I mean, it's been quite insightful, entertaining. I've been entertained by the tortoise story, as always. I mean, I'm also sure that you've learned something from that. I don't know. We could take one more call before we wrap up. We have just one more call. The number to call is 0911 5983411 or 07049774656. You've been the person trying to reach us. This is the appropriate time to give us that call, and we're definitely going to take it.
Network is challenging.
Eh?
I said network is challenging.
But someone has been calling since I don't know if I'll be able to take with that one call. Our time is fast. I just wanted to take a quick break, then we'll wrap up. I'll just cut off the questions an hour.
We're united in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land and for generations to come.
Okay. Alright, welcome back. It's still Center Stage on Omalicha 91.1 FM Owerri. Okay, quickly, before we call it, draw the curtain on this edition, what would you like to say to every person listening to us this morning about why they should care about preserving these traditions? And I know you've already given us one story already, so quickly, after this question, just you wrap it up with one favorite proverb that you would also like to share quickly, please.
Okay, so it is my considered opinion that our oral tradition is a rich repository of our lives as Africans. Our oral tradition must be kept, they must be guarded jealously. We should not in any way discard our oral tradition. It is because of our lack of falling back to our oral traditions that we see a lot of things happening in our society. The things that hitherto didn't used to happen. The unbridled quest for wealth. Nobody's saying wealth is bad, but people trying to do all the impossible to get wealthy. People trying to outsmart, outwit. See the way people are kidnapping. See a lot of crisis in the society. Kidnapping, all for money. Just name it. The greed amongst our political class, the greed across all spheres of life. There's a serious rot across all spheres of our national life. I believe it is because of a lack of our oral traditions. Because then, I have always paddled this opinion that our political leaders, when they are being sworn in, they are being sworn in by the Bible. I have argued repeatedly that if our political leaders swear in by our traditional gods, I dare say that nobody will steal money. If we swear in using our traditional gods, that I swear by XYZ God, I swear by all our cultures have different gods and deities that are feared. But the Christian God is very kind, very understanding, very slow to anger. So if our politicians are sworn in by traditional artifacts, corruption will reduce. It will not go, it will not finish, but it will be reduced to its barest minimum. That's my considered
All
opinion.
right, thank you so much.
You said I should give a proverb. There are so
Yes,
many
yes.
proverbs. You say they say that, and interestingly, there are proverbs cut across the African society. The proverbs that may be used here, you go to Ghana, you go to Uganda, somehow you find a reflection of that proverb. A common proverb that the teeth and the tongue do quarrel, but they still learn to live in the mouth peacefully. That the teeth and the tongue do quarrel, but they still learn to live in the mouth peacefully.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Manuel. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you for not just being here today, but for also for the knowledge that you have continued to share with generations of students. And today's conversation reminds us that culture doesn't only live in museums or in history books. Sometimes it lives in the voice of a grandmother telling a folk tale. It lives in the proverb passed from one father to son. It lives in a song, a riddle, a legend, or a story that has survived for generations. But stories cannot preserve themselves. Someone has to listen. Someone has to record. Someone has to pass them on. So to our elders, do our elders still tell these stories? The question is, are we listening and we recording? Because when the storyteller is gone, the story may go with them. Yes. I'm Rosemary Nwabasi. It's been a pleasure having you on today's part of this conversation. Before I go, I also like to thank my callers who called in, my listeners. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation, and those who listened from the beginning of the program till now, thank you so much. I'll leave you here until next time. We'll bring you another exciting topic on Center Stage, normally 91.1 FM or Owerri. So I'll leave you with this. When we preserve our stories, we preserve a part of ourselves. Good morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Oh, quite interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, let me pause this.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
For one call, where the